I'm Dawn, and just a little reminder that we are recording today's webinar so that we can post it online for others. So just so everybody knows, and if you'd like to refer this or share information about where others can find this webinar, you can go to musiccare.org to our Learn section, and you'll find the webinars and click on past webinars. So today is March 8th. It's hard to believe it is March 8th, and our presentation today is recruiting musicians in care spaces, which is one that's very close to my heart, actually. And I had met Deb Chandler before when I was at the Toronto Symphony, and that connected with relationships and partnerships with Room 217. So we are glad to welcome Deb Chandler and guests Brenton Chan and Gertrude Letourneau, who is coming a little bit later. Deb will introduce her people that she has brought with her today to talk about this very interesting subject. And a little bit more about what's coming up. So today it's recruiting musicians in care spaces. And then next month, we have quite an interesting one as well on social prescription conversations in Canada with Dr. Kate Mulligan. So that is going to be an interesting conversation and webinar to find out what new conversations are. And again, I forgot to mention that we are very thankful that the webinars are actually we're able to offer them for free based on funding from the George Lunan Foundation. So we're very thankful to George Lunan Foundation for your support for our webinar series. And so what's coming up on our Learn platform? We have been announcing this. We're pretty excited actually to have our conference upcoming in October in Ottawa. Gertrude actually is from Ottawa, so I'm mentioning that, Deb, because that connection, we will be in Ottawa in October. We also, Social Prescription Conversations is coming up in April, and our masterclass is an interesting one. It's going to be tips and tricks on using Soundtrap, a program where you can get people composing in care spaces with very, very little experience. So that's coming up in May. And as we speak right now, a level 2 is happening. So it's too late to catch our music care training level 2 for this session, but our upcoming courses, we have a level 1 offering on April 27th and 28th. Our next level 2 will be happening in May. And for any of you that are able to sign up for a level 3, that's actually happening at the end of this month. So we have a new intake or cohort of level 3 training happening March 30th through to May 12th. And just a little reminder that our training is the pathway to individual certification. And so if you're interested in becoming music care certified, certainly reach out to us and we'll help give you any information at info@musiccare.org. And so this is just a little bit more about our masterclass. Soundtrap is a COVID silver lining story. It's using technology to compose in care settings. It's proven to work with limited experience in either music making and using technology. So pretty exciting. We have a music educator going to walk us through how they use Soundtrap virtually, much in context like this. So this will be one of our presentations delivered by a music educator on how they worked with their students to do compositions with very little musical knowledge and background. And so a little bit more about Deb Chandler. Deb Chandler is the executive director of Concerts in Care. She has big picture awareness combined with a high degree of organization and enormous energy, and I totally vouch for that. She has been the executive director of Concerts in Care since 2017, taking professional live music into long-term care and memory care, assisted in independent living facilities and seniors active living centers across Ontario. So she has a vast experience, and I've already taken up so much time, and she'll introduce her guests, but there is no one more experienced to really talk about recruiting musicians in care spaces. And so thank you for joining us today, Deb. And I just also wanted to say, Deb is welcoming questions throughout. So if you have a question, there's a couple options. You can kind of raise the hand function at the bottom of your screen, and I'll try to help Deb monitor, or you can throw it into the chat and I will help facilitate questions. So rather than waiting to the end, if you have a burning question, please feel free to ask. Thanks, Deb.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming in. I'm going to share my screen and get things going. I've got share sound done. Okay. There we are. So first of all, who is Concerts in Care? Well, I should tell you first of all that I am here with my right hand, whose name is Brenton Chan. He is a professional cellist. He's been with Concerts in Care longer than I have, and he does most of our booking of artists. We do strategy and approaches together. We do sales together, and we generally are a real team of two, and we're running, well, before COVID, we were about to run 450 concerts a year across the province. We'll hope to be back up to 400 this year, but it's been half of that for the last couple of years. And most of those, as you can imagine, were live interactive Zoom or virtual recorded concerts, as well as outdoor concerts. And previously, we only did in-person, inside concerts. So we have diversified, and we did it quickly. Brenton, I think we did our first two videos by the first week of April of 2020. Am I right?
Yes, that was a mission.
It was indeed. So our whole mandate is to serve seniors where they live, wherever that is, especially in care, with professional concert hall quality music. We do it with solos, duos, trios, quartets. We rarely go above that because most of the facilities we serve can't even afford half the cost of a concert anyway. So we are constantly fundraising to raise the money to subsidize every concert we do. And it's hugely important. We've seen the difference. We observe what happens in many kinds of settings. Long-term and memory care are special because whether or not you get physical or verbal reactions, you can feel it in the room. You can feel how the music changes people. Retirement and assisted living are very strongly opinionated, no filters, and you know exactly what they like and don't like. And the seniors active living centers we're doing mainly through Zoom. And so we have an intimate community online just like this, where we have 30 or 40 people with every concert, and they now know each other, and they talk to the artists, and they talk to us. And it's amazing how curious, it's intimate. It's really a lovely community. And what we're starting now, we just launched last week with Homes First Shelters. For those of you who are in the Toronto area, there's a great big hotel out near the 401, was a Delta. It now houses 400 homeless people, and more than half of them are over 55 years old. So there's another system failure to match the long-term care one. And we're starting with palliative, and we're starting with NORCs, which many of you will know are naturally occurring retirement communities in condos and apartment buildings where lucid and mobile seniors are saying, I'm going to age in place with services in the building. And so they're pulling in medical services and social services and hopefully art services. So the world is rich with possibilities. So what do? We do 45 to 60-minute concerts, and we try and I always say it's like a visit with a really good concert in it, because it's the social connection as well as the musical connection that counts. And it isn't just walking in and performing and leaving. This is not the musician's concert. This is the senior's concert. And that is something that we drive home all the time. We do these concerts every day of the week, morning, afternoon, and evening. And as I said, indoor, outdoor, online, and Zoom. And starting in June, we're touring. We're taking Sudbury musicians out to Elliott Lake and Manitoulin, taking North Bay musicians to Deep River and Temagami. And we've applied for funding to take Thunder Bay musicians to Atikokan and Dryden and such places. Because one of the other things we did during COVID is we started a seniors programming advisory network. There's some wonderful conversations, but very interestingly, the first 3 or 4 people we talked to said, how are you reaching people in smaller places where you don't have all these musicians around? So we started investigating, and like a couple of our national compatriots, we'll now tour to those places and using local professionals wherever we can. And as you can imagine, because you're all in the business, everything we do is relational. It's one-on-one sales, it's one-on-one with the artists, it's one-on-one with the seniors when you're there. It's building relationships so that you trust that the music is going to be good, the personalities are going to be good, you're going to have a lovely experience, and you're going to want it back. That's what we do. And this is why. Music is a powerful trigger. And whether it's joy or sadness, whatever kind of memories it brings up, music reaches more deeply into the brain and heart than anything else. And you'll often see people listening, looking around to see who they can connect with to talk about what they're feeling. And who's the connectors? Our musicians are the connectors. They're watching these people who have been isolated, who are often lonely, even though they live in crowded buildings. And there's all sorts of responses to watch for and to know that you're going to trigger with your music. People like you, the program and the activity and recreation staff are stretched thinner than I can imagine. And so we're trying to support, because we know that in that hour that we're providing music, it's a little respite for you too, and for the staff, and more about that later. And our musicians love these audiences. When you're on a concert stage or you're in a club, there's a different feel. When you're in a room with anywhere from 20 to 50 to 80 people who are there to hear you and have all the time in the world to listen to you, there's a wonderful intimacy and a sense of making a difference that you don't often get on those bigger stages. Brent and I expect you to jump in here. We came up with a list of what we believe should be in the musician's toolbox when they're going into places of care. And I'm a little bit inhibited because I know Nick Cutts is on this webinar, and nobody knows more about this than Nick. Hi, Nick. So obviously, one of our biggest calling card at Concerts and Care is quality. We want concert hall quality music, no matter what kind of music it is, whether it's classical, country, jazz, Chinese pipa, whatever it is, it has to be top notch. And usually with those top notch musicians comes passion for the music they're playing. Sometimes passion, just over the top passion for it, but you know, that's part of the toolbox, is learning how to balance all that. I would say, and I think Brenton would agree, that most people who perform for us have an empathy or a sympathy, compassion for the seniors they're playing for. We don't often get people who don't like seniors wanting to play for Concerts and Care. And that's such an important part of it. I was recounting this with Brenton last week. We were trying to remember, how many musicians have we met that we've hired thinking it was a good match when it really wasn't? And it's a handful, and they only ever played once. You know, it just doesn't work. So, and that there's this big understanding. The concert does not belong to the musician. This is not where you come to practice your recital stuff. This is not where you come to run a concert that you're going to do for a bigger paying audience later on. This is where you come to bring the music that you love, and maybe you are rehearsing it for something bigger, but you're not going to perform it the same way. This is the seniors concert. You program for the seniors, and that's something musicians have to learn, whether they're classical or jazz. And I mean, and let's be honest, it's the classical ones that have the biggest problem, because they're used to playing sonatas, and they're used to playing concerti, and they're used to playing long drawn out pieces. Whereas jazz and popular and even the Chinese pipa, Japanese koto, tango, things like that, they're generally shorter pieces, which is what we're after in an overall program. And, you know, we have had people like the Bedford Trio played the Dumke Dvorak Trio, and it's 30 minutes long, 25 minutes long, but they stopped between every movement and talked about what was heard, what was coming up, what to listen for, how we might feel about it. That's what makes a difference. It's connecting in between. So it's the flexibility and the narrative, which is going to be a big part. That should have been on this list. It's on the next list. But being able to talk to your audience in care, whether it's seniors or young people or whoever it is that you're playing for, that narrative, that social connection is an essential part of what we do. And of course, the flexibility. You're going to have audiences that are quiet and listen. You're going to have audiences that want to be in there participating, whether it's dancing, or we had one lady sing the entire top line of a Beethoven sonata sitting next to the piano at one of the concerts. And we had another one where a young man was playing piano in a corridor at a long-term care home with about 20 people around him. And there was one other guy in a wheelchair going up and down the hall going, music's no good, music's no good. So, you know, you've got to be ready for just about anything. Over the last 3 years, there's been a lot of technological advancement. And certainly the classical people had the biggest curve to learn, but Zoom itself did a beautiful learning curve. You know, the sound when we all began was god awful, and now it's pretty palatable. And recording, people learned about microphones, they learned about lighting, they learned about cleaning up their backgrounds. And it's been a real silver lining, because now there's a lot of people in care who are savvy with their tablets and their phones. That was never a thing before. And as Duncan with his Harps for Care has mentioned, that's made a whole business possible. And, you know, often our musicians will have some sort of connection, whether it's grandparents or parents or neighbors, or they understand a little bit of what it's like to be out of your community into a new, more enclosed community and aching for those connections outside. And then there's a whole deeper understanding of all the people you might be dealing with. Dawn, is there anything I need to answer between now at this point in the presentation? Any questions?
Hi there, I'm just looking at the chat. So far, nothing. Does anybody have any burning questions so far?
Okay, then on we go.
Wonderful.
This is one of the situations where it might be what you expect. They've decorated for a candlelight concert. There's a bar in the corner, very civilized, and people are sitting and listening quietly. The next picture I'm going to show you is from a St. Patrick's Day concert last year. We had one of Canada's champion fiddlers, a champion step dancer. They were doing their thing and they were amazing. Brenton, did you want to tell this story? Because you were there.
I was at both of these concerts, yeah. And there were actually, let's just say, extracurricular activities happening during both of these concerts. It was quite amazing. So the first picture that you see here features the cello duet VC2. Both of these guys, they're good at pops, classical, jazz, you name it, they can actually pull it out. And I think going back to actually what Deborah was talking about, just with musicians being adaptable, I think as a music coordinator, I always talk about the 3 big E's. Of course, experience, enrichment, and also, of course, Deborah already mentioned empathy. Actually, within this concert, it was all, so in addition to their candlelight concert, they were also having a family day, if you will. So there were actually a bunch of kids, the gym's actually right behind this setting, and a bunch of the kids were playing with the gym equipment. So, you know, just being able to ignore that, or being able to let actually the residents enjoy actually what was happening with the kids. And they kind of just kind of blended that together with, let's just say, their performance as well. They made it into a true family day because the kids really got involved with it, and they weren't distracted by anything. So, you know, experience really does come into play. You know, besides some technical proficiency, and of course, Deborah already mentioned quality control, it's just that wealth of experience that allows professionals to have, that have performed in various settings, which allows them to program accordingly and also react swiftly and soundly in whatever situation they're kind of thrown into. Yeah, so that was a really lovely setting that kind of had a little bit of catering, the kids involved, and also just a lovely day of music, because actually you can also see that little target there, the cactus that's right on that left-hand picture. Yeah, there were a few kids, chucking tennis balls at, that cactus during. So I had to catch those tennis balls and just go like, hey, let's go play in the dining room, and while they're, going on with the second half of their concert. But it turned out to be a lovely afternoon or evening, I think. Yeah, it was an evening concert, yeah.
And then this one?
And for this one, so that is Shane Cook. Shane Cook is, I think, a triple or double fiddle champion, Canadian fiddle champion, and also he's the only, I think, Canadian artist to actually win the Grand National Championship in the States as well. And over there, I think on guitar currently you don't see him dancing, but that's Kyle Weymouth. He's a 5-time Canadian Open step dance champion. That's just one of the perks on being a musician. We just come into play with all these artists that are just usually very, very busy, but they fortunately for us, they're able to donate their time to Concerts and Care. And so partway through their concert, of course, this being a St. Paddy's Day concert, there was a lot of drinking going on at the bar behind. And as a music coordinator, you're just standing there going, and I always like to call them my extended grandparents. There's like, they're like, oh, you should start drinking with us. I'm like, no, well, I'm still on duty. I can't, I'm just like you guys, I'm the recreation coordinators and also the staff that are in charge. I just try to help out as much as I can when I'm at the concerts. And then eventually a bunch of residents just started going out to basically to front stage, and they started dancing. And this resident, Helga, she just popped up on stage and just started dancing because Kyle at the moment wasn't dancing. And so she asked him, well, why aren't you dancing right now? And he was like, well, no, I'm playing the guitar right now. It's a little tricky to dance and play guitar at the same time. So, well, how about I dance while you guys play this time? And it was just lovely. And she actually danced for 2 whole songs. And it was just lovely. So, I mean, I guess that goes into the 3 E's I was talking about, just that the enrichment part. So, in addition to the music that you're being given, being I think Deborah already talked about this, being able to pause between selections, or just being able to react while you're playing, just to converse with the residents or the clients. And either it's to share something about themselves, or throw a fun fact about the song selections that they're choosing, or just some friendly banter, which is basically what was happening during this. It's I guess it's kind of like at church, to treat thy neighbors as yourselves, right? You learn it at every service, but it's a simple gesture, and it goes a long way to build relationships. And as bonus, it kind of brings a different slice of society into their current home. So yeah, so this one was also really lovely, how all the residents just started dancing. And
That's
yes,
great.
yeah, wonderful.
That's great. So how do you train musicians for care situations? During COVID, we hired Room 217 Music Care to do 2 different sessions for us, and we tailored the training as much as we could. And we covered as much as we could with the core competencies. And Brenton, I know you took part in some of that. The various human domains of music care we covered, and that's something that's a real specialty of Room 217. Everything from community music and musicking to technology and the sounds of the environment around you, music therapy, music medicine, training and research. We talked about it all. We touched on care settings and pathologies. I've got my crib notes here with the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, pulmonary disease and congestive heart failure, and a number of things like that, which frankly, in our business, we don't come up against very often unless it's part of the long-term care situation. But we're not doing hospitals, for instance, like Opus is, or others. But those are things that musicians who go into those care situations should be aware of, so that they understand what their audience is dealing with. Dementia care has been a huge thing for us. I mean, it's overwhelming when you go into these situations and you watch what it does for people. I have a story that I love to tell. We were in one of the city homes in a dementia ward. I had Fraser Jackson bassoon from the Toronto Symphony and Emmanuel, the second cellist, and she was playing a Bach suite, solo suite at some point. And there was a lady in a wheelchair who was fairly agitated. So I just went up and sat beside her and held her hand, and she calmed down a bit. And she shuffled forward and got her feet on the floor. And then she gently disentangled her hand from mine, and she started conducting. And she was so calm, and she was settled. And the nurse had been watching this and with a strange look on her face. And she came over to me and she said, you know, she's deaf. I mean, that's just why we do these things. It doesn't matter. Her feet are on the floor. She's 12 feet from the cello and she can feel everything. So that type of penetration through the fog of dementia is just, and we've got story after story of people who have smiled or hummed when they've been catatonic for months, in one case, even years. Music is just an incredible tool. Brenton, do you want to talk a little bit about programming?
Sure, I definitely can. I'm actually, in addition to that story, I can actually tie in another story actually with that same piece, that cello suite, that first prelude that you were mentioning. Not Concerts of Care Ontario, but a sister organization of ours in BC, Concerts of Care BC. After a concert, a staff member came over to the musician, was like, whoa, we have someone in the palliative ward that really would love to just hear this. And so our musicians usually are very understanding and, gave a little bit of extra time there. Went over there and just did a one-on-one with them. And, that just, I heard basically that just calmed down the resident just to no end. And at that time, basically this resident hadn't got out of bed basically for a week. And finally, she had actually just put her feet on the floor and actually sat upright and just listened. And just afterwards, apparently they just spent like basically half an hour together. So, again, I guess that's not really programming, but it's just extra, I guess.
It's
Again,
opportunity,
yeah,
filling in
again,
where we
but
need
just,
to.
yeah, and just to treat them as a normal human being, because it's just just to have that human interaction is just very lovely. So with programming notes, actually I worked with recreation coordinators, activation managers. It's actually what you want is what I try to get for you. I usually tell you you don't need to worry about the artists because we do a lot of artist vetting. That is a big part of my job, just to make sure that the quality is there and also that they're just good people. And from there, that's how we start working. Say St. Patty's Day. If you wanted a violinist, if you wanted a banjo, if you wanted Celtic singing, if you wanted a dancer, that's my job, and I'll try to get that for you with my contacts. And I do this all over the province. Or say if you wanted, a pub night and you wanted some musicians there, you wanted old rock, or you wanted a little classy jazz thing, or maybe say if you wanted, a maybe more cabaret style. What you ask for, we have artists all over the province. The thing usually about it is just, are they available? And then if not, then we go from there and we hunt down their contacts, or we try more of our contacts. So,
and we do have a roster of about 250 musicians. So getting artists eventually is not really a problem. And I think also we want to talk about the concert series a little bit, because what we normally do is we book a series of a minimum of 4 over 12 months, and as many as you want, but we try to give you an arc of programming. We curate your programming according to your preferences and according to curiosities. You may not know what all of your people like, and certainly with this seniors programming advisory committee, we're finding out that within the same home, the preferences are very wide. I want more fiddle. Why are people talking through Schubert? And so there's lots of things to balance for us and for you. And we really love to do concerts series. We also do events, as Brenton is saying, for special events and so on. but the core of what we do is good music of all kinds.
But yeah, and we try to mix it up as best as possible for every home, just because we do understand that not everybody has the exact same taste.
Mhm.
Or the other factor is just to I guess remind everybody that maybe it's also they might not even know that they like something that they haven't experienced before. So we always try to bring a new experience for the residents.
Yeah, that's a big point too, because when I'm talking to the advisors, one of my questions always is, what are you curious about? What would you like to try? What have you not heard that you might want to hear? So that's the type of approach we're doing. And that's important to get across to musicians. Most of the musicians we talk to, they pretty well understand that. I've only had one young musician withdraw from a concert because he wanted to play Beethoven's Kreutzer Sonata. He knew the concert was supposed to be 45 minutes long, and that's how long the Beethoven Sonata is. And when I said, that's not really what we're looking for, he said, okay, I can't do it then. So there you are. So we do vet in many ways: quality, approach, strategies.
And yes,
Developing,
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead,
No, you
Brenton.
can go on. I was just seeing Duncan's messages, how he's talking about music and connection and everything like that. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Yeah, I think everybody in this webinar definitely knows that, but it's just, but not just to throw that aside for people who don't understand, how
Mhm.
music is just so essential. It's such an essential component for personal cognitive care, for anyone of any age, just by listening to music, or what Dawn was actually talking about, participating in music, having the residents actually write their own songs that just, exercises and just strengthens the neural pathways that are just in our mind all the time. But anyhow, sorry to interrupt. You can go on,
That's
Deborah.
okay. Our musicians often, there's a range of ability when it comes to the narrative and the storytelling around the music and themselves. Some people are really comfortable with it. Some people need to script themselves with bullets. Some people just need to develop that comfort with speaking as well as playing. And even for jazzers, sometimes they're not that used to talking. And other people are just so comfortable. So this is something we struggle with sometimes. And we try and get it across. And sometimes it's just a matter of practice. And it's something that in the training, you really have to almost just role play and make sure that there is a comfort level, and that you build a little platform so you can grow from it. The basics of talking about the music you're playing and the composer and the history of the time it was written in, therefore what it might have meant to people then as opposed to what people hear now. And then there's the different levels of audience you're talking to. The retirement homes want to learn. When you're in long-term care, sometimes you have a room full of people in wheelchairs who can't respond. But you just have to believe that you're making that difference. And as I said earlier, you can feel that difference in the room. And I've had a young singer and pianist do an entire 35-minute program with no applause except from the staff in the back, because nobody had the ability to move or to even speak, but their eyes were moving and there were little smiles. And this is the type of thing that you have to pull from inside yourself as a musician and share, even if you're not getting a lot of visual or verbal response. Technology is almost a redundant thing in my head now, but the recording concerts, everybody is doing it. We try and make ours up close and personal so that the musicians present their virtual concert the same way they would as a live concert, with that narrative, looking into the camera, making sure you feel like you're at home. Even our early ones, one of our early recordings, somebody in one of the recreation managers in Sudbury sent us a little clip of two people talking back to the virtual recording. I loved that. And the Zoom concerts I've already talked about, but that's something that we have people signing in from their homes, on their phones or their pads or their laptops. We have people signing in as groups from small congregate settings. through COVID, we had them signing in with 40, 50 people in a room listening when they were allowed to gather. So I find it to be a very versatile, interactive media to get the music across to people who need it. And why did I put equipment there, Brendan? Oh, because musicians have to know what they're looking for with mics and lights and room situations. I think it was Alex Pangman, the singer, who said she recorded one of her CDs in a closet because it was the best room she could get for the sound that she needed. Stuff to add there, Brenton?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, during the pandemic, yeah, people were recording in their closets just because of soundproofing. It's usually the best way. You have material around you, or a lot of people were recording just on their phones and just, putting a little, I guess even just like I've heard people like basically just wrapping cotton balls around and then wrapping saran wrap just to give you a little filter for your sound. But no, yeah, going back, yeah, technology, also speaking, that's everything that we try and educate our artists on actually, and just get them to practice. And it's, because not everybody is a natural speaker. As you see, I'm probably usually tripping over my own tongue as well. But yeah, Zoom was also just lovely in that aspect of it was a really good educational process for us of actually really learning the residents of every home, getting to know these personalities and getting to know their likes and dislikes.
Mm-hmm.
And it still goes. I mean, it's every other Wednesday for our senior adult living center Zoom concerts. We're still going through it as well. We're getting to meet new residents. We're getting to know their likes and dislikes. And it's just a lovely way to get to share music and also share conversation. And then eventually when we do get to meet them in person, it just makes everything so much more fruitful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now the last bullet, the reflective practice, is something that, to be honest, we haven't had a lot of chance. We had finished the training and we had our first meeting of sort of our community of musicians who wanted to talk about how their programming is working and discuss it and learn from each other. And then a lot of the restrictions lifted and everybody got busy again. So what I hope we can do is encourage them to do it amongst themselves, but certainly from the programming we've seen, they seem to be thinking about it and improving things as they go. This is a question we get often asked. We are not music therapists. Our musicians are not music therapists, but we think that all music is therapeutic. And I am absolutely sincere when I say that we believe music therapists are magicians, because the things we have seen them do either on film with Room 217 or in person or heard about through the people we know who are music therapists, what they can do using their training, the science, the music, to relieve pain, to calm, to prepare people for surgery, to prepare them for chemo. It is a phenomenal profession. And we would never, ever suppose that anything we do can have that deep an effect. But we do have an effect. Musicians who are playing in care situations, we think are an essential service. They may not be magicians, but they're close. So therapeutic musicians, as we will hear from Gertrude Letourneau, who is going to join us shortly, I hope, they use music to create the environment where people can come back to their own selves, come back to their own identities, and think about things other than where they are and what's happening to them. Gertrude, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Aha! Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Gertrude Letourneau. She is a classical flutist, a wonderful singer, an excellent piano player, and she has been a therapeutic musician at the Pearly Center in Ottawa for 20 some years.
Yeah, the past 22, almost 23, yeah.
That's amazing. Now, she's one of our favorite artists, and I heard stories about you from people at the Redwoods last week.
Oh, good. Now, I can't see myself. Can you see me okay?
Hey, okay.
Somebody else will, yeah, okay, good. So Would you two like to talk a little bit? I'm going to let Gertrude begin about your perspectives on this whole therapeutic music thing and how concerts fit into that.
Yes, well, I see these concerts as building bridges. That's what these concerts are for me, in many different ways.
Would you like to do your slides now, and then we can have this little discussion after? I can.
Okay.
All
so
right.
What did you? Okay. Yes, because that's from you, Deborah. You wrote that at the beginning of the, what musicians are connectors. So we build bridges. So the first thing is, because the residents who are in long-term care or retirement residences, they can't go to concerts. So obviously we're all professional musicians, which means that we play in different venues. So we bring the concert series to them. Because they can't get out to the concert. So that's the first basic bridge that we are providing with these concerts. Also, the bridge between the present and the past, the connection with the true self. I see the residents, our seniors, in a bubble of limitation. If they're in a home, it's because they have limitation, physical or cognitive. So then I see my role in concerts and care, or any as a therapeutic musician here at Pearly Health, to take them out of that bubble of limitation and reach a part of them that is still well. Reach a part, the music does that. Reach a part of us that's still well. I'm thinking when my son was young and he would hurt himself or be in trouble, whatever. And then a few minutes later, you hear, could hear him, hum or sing. I said, oh, he's okay. He's well. Music does that. So that's another bridge. And also many of our, many seniors have been really exposed to music, live music in their past, being themselves musicians, or there was a piano in the family, mom played, the sister played, they went to church, there was music, there was a lot of live music. So the concerts we provide, it brings them back to their past, so to their true self, their authenticity, by reminiscing about their past experience with music. About joy, I used to say, people would say, oh, they call me Trudy here at Pearly Health. In many homes now I'm called Trudy, because Gertrude is a bit tricky to say, and I didn't want to turn out to be Gert or Gertie. So anyway, they would say, oh, you bring joy, but I really believe that we all have the joy inside ourselves, and that the music brings that joy out. It's as written there, it's to free the joy inside us. But you might think, and that's true, not all music brings joy. Maybe I'll give you a little anecdote. I was singing Lily Marlene with a group of residents here at Pearly Health. And after, we were singing it. We're talking a few years ago with World War II veterans, and they were all singing. We were singing it in English. And then one veteran, he said, I know it in German. Is that okay if I sing it in German? So I asked the group, is it okay? He said, I don't want to offend anybody. Again, a World War II, veteran. So everybody said, okay. So he sang it all in German. And then he started bawling, like just burst in tears. And he was saying, I hope they forgive us. They were kids too. I hope they forgive us. So it was all that guilt that he expressed, And all that to say, but I believe that after the release of emotions like this, I think, of course, we accompany him in that emotion and all that, but there was a follow-up. But what I mean to say is that I really believe that when those emotions are expressed, then after that, it leaves room for joy to be expressed. I believe that, and I think it's true.
That's beautiful.
Another, the second point I wanted to bring, again about building bridges, is concerts in care. It's more, maybe it's probably on the next slide. I don't know if you want to put that up, Deborah. That it's more than a concert. It's really, en français, we say une rencontre. It's a rendezvous, not just a meeting, but a rendezvous. And when you were talking about training musicians, actually, Deborah, as a musician, you have to bring yourself, not just the flute player, but you. They are the audience, and it's for seniors, but for any audience, I think it's to take the risk of bringing yourself, showing yourself, and then so it's a meeting between the seniors and you. So it's that the first, like, when I started to train musicians to do concerts, to do on communication and performance skills, and I see there's three things as a music: you bring you give, and you receive. To be able to accept. I'm jumping in the slides, but accept the unexpected. I'm going to come back to that, because I just want to follow up a little bit, so we don't get lost about building bridges. So between you and the seniors, a musician, also between the residents themselves after a concert, when they start talking about it, exchange it about it. So that brings this conversation for the recreation staff and the resident, and for the staff to be able to sit down for a few minutes, with their residents, and have that connection that, we're doing something together, and they don't have to lead the activity and be out there, just to enjoy the residents' presence. And also, I really like when family members come to our concerts, because many, where you were talking about, Deborah, about dementia and residents who don't respond physically anymore. So when you have a family member who there's not much conversation anymore, but if you can sat with him or her, hold hands, and listen to that beautiful music, it's just such a nice feeling. It's fantastic. And and you can hold hands, and the you don't need to talk, because you're listening to that beautiful music. Yes, the third point here about helps us becoming better musicians, for sure. I touched a little bit earlier about the receiving. Often things happen during a concert, or nothing happens. So then you have to you have to adapt and be flexible. And if you're with your musician colleague, and say, let's jump to that scared zone a little bit, just to liven things up, and to be able to, as I said, to accept the unexpected, or someone start to, there's often things, but then to involve. Sometimes someone might ask a song, and you might know it or you might not, but then instead of saying, well, I don't know it, you go to the person and you say, well, I don't know this one, can you sing a little bit, can you say if you anybody else? So then you really involve the crowd in the performance, so it's really the bridges, because the bridge is built from both ends. If you go 100% towards the person, then you don't leave the other one to do its her share of the building the bridge. And also, the applause. my God, how many musicians did I see just go and then the feel sorry, you know, and, oh, it was not as good. No, to receive that. And also it, when of course there's a question and suggest what I do, especially with because you know COVID and we have a mask when we're not playing at the beginning before the concert starts. I bring 4 different flutes to concerts, so I go in the audience and I go meet them and I show them the flute close by, and then I've got an alto flute that's quite heavy, and then you know someone might just hold the flute and feel the weight of the flute. So you go around and show the instruments from close. So then because they haven't seen that from close. Who has seen that? The piccolo from close. You know, I did that again to this afternoon. I brought the piccolo, and you know, it's so small and then so loud. So to really reach out, and the best thing, it makes us better musicians. I mean, my husband is also a musician, and he told me, he said, you're a much better flute player since you work here at Pearly Health and do concerts for seniors. And better than that, there was a CBC producer who knew me as a singer. So I sent her a recording of me as a flute player. So, you know, some classical music for her to listen to that. She called me on a Friday night, 6 o'clock, and she said, your playing is very engaging. Engaging, that's the best compliment she could give me. Not you have a beautiful sound, your technique is terrible. It's terrible. It's terrific, not terrible, terrific, but engaging. So it really makes us a better musician. And one of the musicians that I play regularly with, we really let's say to start, you know, I was more at ease to talk to the audience, and then the more she's doing it, the better at ease she is. And then she said, you know, it makes the concert more comfortable, more relaxed to actually talk to the audience, and really the musician to play beyond their music stand, you know, and reach out, you know. So it's I mean, I could not think of doing a concert without any concert, seniors or not, without communicating with the audience. And the kind of things, you know, you were talking, Deborah, about, you know, we can talk about the composer and the piece and all that. Our new program with Catherine Duncan and I, we call it A Taste of Paris. So then we compare the pieces with French cuisine.
Oh, beautiful.
You know, for example, you know, Julia Child has her famous bœuf bourguignon with 18 ingredients. So then, well, how many ingredients does it take to play a sonata? So we have musical ingredients, you know, or if in a romance by Vidal, there's a cadenza in the middle, where it's like a truffle, you know, and in the middle, it's a bit of surprise, you know. So that's the sort of thing that what we like to do in our concerts.
That's a beautiful thing. You know, I had a young Korean pianist who was learning English, and he was doing his first concert for us. And so he actually wrote out a script and had me sit down and review it with him. And he was doing a slow movement from a Prokofiev sonata. And he said, you have to imagine that Prokofiev is in Paris.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in a cafe, and he is nonchalant.
Oh, nonchalant. So French.
So yeah, so it was very sweet. But when musicians are that thoughtful about it, the way you've just described, it makes a whole different experience for the concert.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that is lovely. I mean, yeah, musicians as Gertrude and I are the conduits. Of course, yeah, music already being a stimulant. I mean, Gertrude was already talking about how it can, you know, just distract, you know, even the pain receptors. But now when you're presenting food into it as well, oh, that is another stimulant altogether. And I'm getting hungry already, so I apologize right now.
So we're running out of time here. So let's quickly talk about this thing I've been harping on about quality. I have a board member who says that if you give your residents or your patients music that is mediocre, it's somebody's nephew who sort of plays the guitar and can't really sing that well, but he means well, that doesn't transport people anywhere. It reminds them of where they are. That's how he says it. So we are very, very focused on giving the best musicians possible. And I believe that any musicians playing in any care situation need to have top quality in order to really, with their commitment, their empathy, and their skills, to transform whatever space you're in into something wonderful for 45 to 60 minutes. And that includes, that social connection thing. Would you two musicians like to comment on that?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I mean, in addition to that, of course, the quality, and hiring professional musicians and also hiring people that are experienced. But also in that case, everything that Gertrude just mentioned, and also what Deborah was talking about, I think it'd be rude of me just to kind of summarize it. But like, how I see it is also just so the artists, for them to not be consumed by their presentation, for them to actually be open and aware of what's actually happening in the room, to actually truly be able to listen to what the residents have to share with them, and then also just to respond accordingly to that. What Trudy was just saying about, oh, I don't know that song, but if you can hum it to me. I always tell the artists, take the requests, please do. It'll make them so happy. It just makes their day. They talk about it for a week. And also, do take that extra time. I mean, we youngins, we're always holding either our phones or our tablets. As you see, I have both beside me. I can't leave them. It's very easy for us just to find that song and then boom, and it just takes 30 seconds. But just to take a deep breath, just to have a conversation and find that song, and just for you, just to play it for them, just to sing it for them. It just makes the world for them, for you. And we can't even, we leave their home, but we just don't understand the impact afterwards that we get emails about, and we're just like, oh my gosh, they're still talking about that, they're still ranting about that, and they want you to come back and take more requests. And yeah, so it's just being going in with an open mind.
Yeah, and whether those requests are for Cole Porter or for Bach, we have to look at them as a holistic thing, and trying to figure out what we can do. And if we can't do it on the spot, then to say, when we come back next time, that's for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think Trudy and Deborah and myself, and also a lot of you can already attest to, after say a really good concert, on multiple occasions, you see the residents either approaching the artists, because the music just awakens like a buried memory, or just unlock gem, and they become so enamored, so transfixed with their own thoughts, and they just complete, it's like complete tunnel vision. They become almost oblivious with their surroundings, and because they're sharing their thoughts, and they're sharing their memories. And while that happens, you also just see like this long Disney queue of just residents just waiting patiently for their tongue just to talk to you, while the resident that's in front of you just pouring their heart out. And again, it's just all it is just a little bit of time, and just a little bit of love, and it goes a long way just to be able to listen, and just to speak with them. So yeah,
I just want to talk to the managers who will be hiring musicians or hiring us to get your musicians. That I want to talk a little bit about the differences between a concert, an event, a concert during cocktails, and just playing background music. So for us, a concert is when people are gathered, or they're online gathered, to hear what the musicians have to offer and to interact with that eventually. An event is more of around an occasion. So you're going to have a St. Patrick's Day or a Valentine's Day or a Christmas concert, that type of a thing, where there's going to be probably refreshments. There's going to be decorations. There's going to be other distractions, as Brenton described with the candlelight concert earlier. That's a different thing. And we the musicians we bring you for that are still going to be top quality, but they're going to be ready for the fact that this is not, they are not necessarily the only feature. A concert during cocktails is a tough thing. I've had a number of conversations about this with various residents in different homes, and some people love it and some people hate it, because some people want to hear a concert and other people want to enjoy it like it's like they're out in a lounge with some music that they want to hear and they will listen to, but they'll also talk about it during the concert. What we don't do, and what I don't think you should make any musician do unless it's very clear to them, is just plain background music. As one of my musicians from Ottawa said to me, if we're just background music, we charge double for that because it's no fun at all. Comments from the musicians?
But
No.
it depends of the musicians. I mean, I personally, background music is like being wallpaper.
Yes.
I don't like to be wallpaper, but there's musicians who really like to do that, you know, and if it's that's what's needed, and that's fine, you know. I really like the connection. That's what I like about the concert.
Yeah.
So, but if somebody if they're going to serve a drink or something, I just want to know in advance, and during that part, then I will do a bit more songs that are background. But if I play my flute and I want to show the soft sound of the wooden flute, I don't want them to ask, do you want some orange juice? I don't want to hear that, you know. It just doesn't work, you know. It's not fair for the residents. It's not fair for anybody.
Absolutely. That's what I had in mind. So I want to show you, I have two examples of things.
And just,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I hate to jump in. We're over time, and I
Okay.
was cognizant of people's time on the call, but this has been wonderful. If you are looking for your CEUs, you can reach out to T. Albus at room217.ca and or info@room217.ca for those of you looking for the hours. And if you need to pop off, that's okay. But we will keep the call open for another 5 minutes, since Deb, it seems to be really touching people, connecting.
Okay, good. Well, I think I'm just going to show you maybe a minute of each of these. This one is only, the little one is only 30 seconds long anyway, but this one shows you what one of our Zoom concerts looks like. And I'm just going to take it straight up to 25, 26. So she's introduced it.
So Schumann thought, okay, let's do something for his birthday and let's compose together a sonata for violin and piano. So this sonata has 4 movements. The first movement is written by a student of Schumann.
So you can see how she's talking to people, and I'm going to move her up.
The precursor to the tango, but it was originally from Cuba. So
Yeah.
Okay, go play.
So F, A, E. Okay?
So you get the idea that it can be a lovely thing, and they were very smart to set up the second camera and put it on mute so we could watch her hands. This was a joyful thing at a Christmas concert, and as we were there for a shift change. So these workers, who God knows what they'd had to do all day, were just walking out to the parking lot, and this is what happened. And that's what it's all about, folks. That's why we do this, right? Okay. Nope. There we go. So if there's any final comments or questions, I'd be happy to take them. And that's how you can find us all.
Wonderful. Well, Deb and Gertrude and Brenton, this was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I mean, there's lots of comments in the chat. We're over time, which means they can't get enough of you. So I just want to say thank you for really opening our eyes to the potential and the human connection, you know, of musicians in care spaces, especially, and the conversation about quality of the music and how that opens up things. So again, for those of you that are looking for certificates, email Tanya T. Albis at room217.ca or info@room217.ca, and our sincere gratitude to our presenters today.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and please be in touch. We'd be happy to help you out in any way. And thanks, Nick, for joining us. Nice to see you there.